So I'm going to show you some of my favorite transform tools because I'm not sure if the other tutorials available online really explain it that well. So first of all, when you click on an object with this black arrow tool, you get a bounding box. Just like you did in Photoshop. So you can rotate it, and if you hold the shift key down, you can resize it, maintaining the original proportion. So if you want to put all of your logo ideas on the same page, that's a good way of doing it, because since Illustrator is a vector format, you don't have to worry about the resolution when you make things bigger or smaller. Illustrator will redraw them for you and they will look the same. So down here, there are some more detailed transformation tools. You can see that tiny little triangle in the corner means that there's more options available. This one's in the video. This is actually one I don't use that much. I'm just not really used to it. So for example, this one is a reflect tool. Notice my object is selected. That's the first thing you have to do, is select it, and then I can reflect it. See it reflected it the other way. But one thing I want to show you that I find very helpful is that if you double click on these tools, you get this menu that gives you a more detailed or more controlled way of doing it. So let's say I want to reflect something along the vertical axis. It even gives you a little diagram in case you forgot what that looks like. And you can do preview. Make sure preview's checked or else you can't see it. But this isn't actually doing it. This is just showing you what it's going to look like until you click OK. So this is what the vertical would look like. This is what horizontal would look like. I want to do vertical, and I want to create a copy. So I create copy, and now I have two, and I can also move them apart. So this is a really good way to create something that's symmetrical. Another one is shear. Shear does that. And this one right here has a lot of really fun things underneath. It tries to give you a little picture of what it's going to do. This one works really quickly. Beware of doing too many of these, because if you get a lot of these points, see these little blue squares are called points. If you get a huge amount of those, it can really slow your computer down. So just use this with caution, or don't make too many of the little blue squares of the points. Now, there's one thing else that I want to show you. I'm going to make a new shape. Is under effects. This is similar to the filters in Photoshop, and it's also kind of like the effects in Photoshop. Down here at the bottom, these are all Photoshop filters. So don't use any of these for now in Illustrator, because these will rasterize it, and this is essentially changing it back into a Photoshop file, which is not what you want to do when you're creating a logo. So if you go to Stylize, for example, it has the different effects that you had in the effects panel in the Photoshop layers. But if you go to Distort and Transform, you get things that are similar to the transformations. So I'm going to do Pucker and Bloat. So this is what the menu looks like. You have to have Preview. This is Bloat. This is Pucker. So you can do it a lot, or you can do it a little bit. And the interesting thing is that it still keeps your original shape. This is something we're going to do a little more later. It's a little more advanced, but it actually is applying it to your shape. So it's a little bit like a filter where it creates this effect, but your original shape is actually still there, even though you can't see it. So that's something else you can fool around with when you're doing transform tools.